What's up, you guys? Matthew here. We got a new update from Anthropic. They finally added Claude Cowork to the Windows desktop app. Before, it was only on Mac, and I even tried to download Claude Cowork on my Mac so I could use it, try it out, but I couldn't even use it because I had an old Intel chip. Apparently, you need a new M1 chip or newer to use it. So anyways, now that it's available on Windows, I can use it on my PC, which is very exciting, except I'm not sure really who this is for. I'm not really the target market, the target consumer for this product. To me, my real opinion is that these three tabs, we have chat, we have cowork, and we have code. These three tabs, they're kind of like three different tabs for the same thing. They're just like different names for different tabs with slightly different UIs to access the same thing with barely even any difference other than the fact that you're kind of purposing these interfaces as if they're for one specific type of thing instead of just like everything. So if they only had chat and chat could do everything, which is frankly what they could do, and it's what it was originally, it didn't really mold itself well enough to coding. So you make Claude Code with different little buttons to click on that are more relevant to coding. So now you make Claude Cowork. It's basically the same thing as Claude Code, except for it's got a little different buttons so you can do different things on your computer as if it's kind of like your assistant for your computer. Right. Claude Code was already that if you knew how to use it. But if you are a normal person, what I say is Claude Cowork is kind of like Claude Code for normal people who don't want to code, but want to do things that code can do on their computer. That's kind of the same thing. And in the same vein, Claude Cowork is kind of like OpenClaw for normal people. Because OpenClaw is kind of weird when I think about, who the target user is for these different things that come out. Like OpenClaw is very viral and everybody's using it. And I don't know really what makes it so much of like a hit for specific groups of people. But if I could, kind of speculate based on anecdotal, evidence, based on basically who I see adopting it, it's people who are not technical but are willing to try things out and break things and go fast so that they can get the benefits of something cutting edge. That's kind of what I feel like is, and therefore that's like entrepreneurs. It's like, like e-commerce, like hacker bros and stuff like that. It's kind of like solopreneur. I'm going to hustle online or whatever. And so I'm going to build a company with 0 employees and all my employees are going to be OpenClaw and I'm going to use everything OpenClaw, right? That's kind of like the target market because that's who's kind of spreading the virality of it. But in the same context, it's like those people are not technical, and so they're not users of Claude Code, so they wouldn't come to the conclusion that something like Claude Cowork or something like OpenClaw essentially does everything that Claude Code already does, but in a slightly different way that I find is maybe more user-friendly for non-technical people who hadn't already adopted AI for their own purposes. Like, for example, I'll tell you my own journey. My own journey when trying to automate my existing workflows for trading or researching and things like that. I wanted to automate everything. And my initial thought was, what if AI, using its computer use, Claude Code computer use or Claude computer use, when it first came out, what if it could just copy different fields from the websites that I know I want it to visit and then populate it on an Excel spreadsheet for me so that I can have an automation where Claude is using my computer to visit a website, copy this, populate the Excel sheet. And I have a bunch of Claudes out there going to the websites, copying and pasting to an Excel sheet. That was my original idea. And I thought about it and I was like, okay, so that's like somebody who's just now like getting into automations and they figure out AI exists. And that's who I was. And I didn't know how to automate things with scripts. I didn't know how to automate things with Python. I didn't know how to run automations that are deterministic, that you just write out a software and it executes that software and you can repeat it because it's repeatable. You could just run that multiple times, opposed to prompting an AI to visit a website and copy, paste this, and do that repeatedly. Those are two different things. And I discovered through my own tinkering that I prefer to write deterministic software that is scripted in a coding language that can be run repeatedly and produce the same results deterministically. And I decided that vibe coding, that Claude Code, as the agent, could write my deterministic automation scripts, and I can run those scripts without Claude Code. Claude Code just basically helps me write those scripts. And that's how I figured out how to automate stuff. And so let's say I wanted to automate something that people would maybe want to do in OpenClaw. As an early adopter, I see something like Telegram, and it's like, okay, I already have automations for a lot of these things. I have automations for Telegram, X, Gmail, GitHub. And a lot of these automations just leverage different packages I can install for Python. Like for Telegram, I use Telethon, and it allows me to use my Telegram account as if I'm myself logged into my own account, viewing channels, doing different messages in Telegram. Anything I could do with Telegram, I can do with a Python script automatically and do it deterministically without an agent messing it up, because it has autonomy. And it may or may not do what I want it to do because it's not deterministic. I don't fall into that. And so when I see people, these entrepreneurial types, more or less adopting something that is not very safe so that they can achieve these things that can also be done in a safe manner and in also a more consistent manner that is deterministic with Claude Code, I see them as kind of just like buying into the hype. And so that's why I think it's hype, but it's not necessarily like all hype. It's because it's for people who don't necessarily have the ability to code things with Claude, or don't even know it's possible. So again, Claude Cowork is essentially OpenClaw for normal people, and Claude Cowork is essentially Claude Code for normal people. And the market fit is kind of weird. So to close this off, I think OpenClaw, it's for non-technical people, but it's weird because you need to be technical to understand the safety. So I think it's for nobody, because if you're non-technical, then you don't understand the safety. And if you understand the safety, then you probably understand how to use Claude Code. That's what's so weird about it for me. So therefore, I don't understand like who's using it, and who's using it, in fact, are just non-technical people who don't know anything about the safety. So they're just using it and getting hacked. And that's just the matter of fact. So on this channel, what I recommend, my channel, I'm targeting people who are more or less non-technical, or rather people who would rather be safe. And so my whole shtick is, let's be safe. Let's wait for the first parties like Anthropic. And I know OpenAI just hired the guy who made OpenClaw, but OpenClaw is still unsafe. So I would prefer to use these more polished solutions that are put in sandboxes and are kind of like built more safely for non-technical people to use out the box without being, susceptible to all these different things. They just had to update, for a new integration with VirusTotal for their skill security, because a lot of their marketplace for skills, as they call it, like little plugins for these like different standard operating procedures for an agent, a marketplace for those had like one of the most popular skills on the marketplace was malware, where it would literally steal your money on your computer if you had crypto on there. So it's like, it's bad. OpenClaw is not safe. OpenClaw has no target market that should use it responsibly, because anybody who can use it responsibly can use Claude Code to do anything it can do. There. All right, you guys. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.